Hey everybody, how are you? Listen, this is a video that's going to be a little listing of what I think are the 10 best album tracks by Cat Stevens. Not on his greatest hits album or any of his hits, but 10 of his best album tracks. I hope you'll watch. Well, actually, I had a couple people ask me about doing a few more Cat Stevens videos, and of course, I know that music pretty well. I grew up with Cat Stevens, and I would say in acoustic music, he's the person I've listened to so much, especially like between like seventh grade and well, really all through high school. But from about seventh grade to 10th grade, I mean, I just wore out those albums. I've at one point, I just about had them all memorized, and they're great albums all the way. Mona Bon Jakon all the way through really Back to Earth. I would I never listened to Back to Earth as much, but I wanted to start out with something. I wanted to show you this old high school textbook that I found. Probably sell for about $1, not even today. But I hope they teach good English lit classes like this. I took this at Wheaton, Illinois. And I won't see the English teacher's name, but she was great. She probably doesn't remember me, but I don't think I was the most studious young person in the class. But one thing, I found this old book a while back, and inside, it's got Macbeth, Beowulf, Chaucer, all the romantic poets. It's a really good book. But there in high school, that would be my sophomore year of high school, you can see I wrote in an idle moment the lyrics to Silent Sunlight by Cat Stevens, Catch Bullet 4. And I was in English lit class, and I guess at the time I would have said this is as good as anything we're reading, Shelley, Keats, or anything, and I still think that. Sleepy horses heave away, put your backs to the golden hay. Don't ever look behind at the work you've done, for your work has just begun. There'll be the evening in the end, but till that time arrives, you can rest your eyes, then begin again. That's such a those are great lyrics. I mean, that's poetry. You can read that as poetry. And I think maybe in here I've got some Dylan songs written around once in a while. I used to do that sometimes right in idle moments of class, which unfortunately were. So anyway, I wanted to give a little list of what I think are the 10 best album tracks off Cat Stevens. And I'm not going to use any of his greatest hits. I'm also not going to count anything from the Harold and Maude soundtrack or Child for a Day, which he didn't write, which was kind of a hit from Is It So? But even though that wasn't his greatest hits, I'll consider that as really one of his hits. That's also in a good movie, by the way, if you ever get a chance to see it, with Susan Day. Called First Love. It was filmed up at Reed College, and the opening scene of that is all these beautiful scenes of Reed College in the 70s, and it's got Child for a Day in there playing. But I wrote down a list of the 10 songs I think are the best. Number one, this is in no particular order, but number one is Silent Sunlight. That's such a beautiful song. And that's one of several I put on this list that I would describe as a little song, almost a little ditty, like the wind, Moonshadow's kind of like that. And I think a lot of his songs, if you pared them down, you just get these nice little poetic songs, almost like Emily Dickinson or something, just little snapshots of moods and feelings and thoughts. And but that Silent Sunlight is really beautiful. That's on Catch Bullet 4, and which I think is one of his best albums, no doubt. Number two was King of Trees off Buddha and the Chocolate Box, another terrific album, really. Every album was a little different. Catch Bullet 4 was still an acoustic album, but it did have a rockier feel, and it had a little bit more piano and organ. I think he had it was that Gene Russell. He added on organ on that, and some electric guitar like on Freezing Steel. But Buddha in the Chocolate Box had some like kind of Fender Rhodes type keyboards, and that was another different album. I really liked that album a lot. But of the many songs on there, besides Over a Young, I really love. One of them is King of Trees, and I used to play that on guitar all the time, actually, even though it's a piano song. But he was the King of Trees, Keeper of the Leaves, Deep Green God of a. I don't want to get the words wrong, but really, really great song. And I love the kind of outro. It's just that kind of 70s keyboard, acoustic guitars. Everyone's just kind of vibing along at the outro. Unfortunately, I'm not going to play any clips, but if you get a chance to listen to King of Trees, and especially notice that beautiful outro on that. Number 3 was Sweet Scarlet, which I believe is also on Catch Bullet 4. And that's just him and piano. It's kind of like Sad Lisa on T for the Tillerman. Just a terrific song, and I think he's just sitting there playing on a piano. I don't think there's much else on that. And it's kind of a showbiz song, come let us drink again before the second show. But just captures the mood and the time. Great. And Cat Stevens was a fine pianist. I know people like to point out now that Rick Wakeman played the keyboard on Morning is Broken, which when I was a kid, I don't think anyone knew that, and it was really just the last few years you started hearing about that. But Cat Stevens played the piano really well. Actually, if you watch that concert he did with William and Mary, he rocks it out with the band, on quite a few of those songs. Number 4, I put down The Wind, which is just that from the opening of Teaser and the Firecat. It's just such a nice little song. Like I said, in its way, it's kind of like Emily Dickinson or one of those. It's not really whimsical, but it's just a little snippet, a little song. Paul Simon always said he wanted Bridge Over Troubled Water to be a little song, just kind of a little quiet song, almost like Kathy's song or For Emily When I Find Her, just kind of acoustic guitar and pretty vocals. And of course, they orchestrated it and turned it into the epic song it is, which probably was a good call in a lot of ways. But he said really his vision of it was just this little song. And The Wind is just a little song, there's almost nothing to it. And those are some of his best songs in The Wind. And again, the words are so kind of elusive and beautiful, and they just bring you right in. Great acoustic music of the early 70s. I miss it so much. Number 5, I put down Miles from Nowhere from T for the Tillerman. Just a terrific album. And that had a bunch of songs I could have picked, of course, besides Wild World and Father and Son, and I think Hard Headed Woman. Those are all 3 on that Greatest Hits album, as I recall. So I didn't include any of those. But you have Longer Boats but I Might Die Tonight, Where Do the Children Play? But I put down Miles from Nowhere, and I used to play acoustic with some guys. This would be like years and years ago, but we always did that song. And when he says, Lord, my body, we used to rock it up pretty good, but it's a really good song. I miss that acoustic music. Young people, keep that acoustic guitar going because it's such a great instrument. Number 6, I put down Sun C-79, another Buddha in the Chocolate Box song. I remember listening to that when I first got a decent stereo. I had one of those old kind of Magnavox. Put a quarter on the needle record players for a while. It wasn't even a stereo, just one of those little mono bedroom things. And then I had a cheaper Magnavox for a while, which wasn't all that great. But then in my sophomore year of high school, I worked on a farm all summer, and I saved up and bought a really pretty nice little stereo FM receiver with some nice speakers and a pretty nice turntable. And I remember when I put on that Sun C-79 with that acoustic, dude, it sounds so kind of mystical and far away and dreamy, and it's sort of looking back. It reminds me a little bit of that song by Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin, 10 Years Gone. He's kind of looking back at, a woman that I think there's some history there. Some of you can put it in. It was someone that had some association with the Stones too, right? Was that? There are a couple names I want to mention. One of them is that Jane Gore. Was she the sister of Alice Ormsby Gore? But there were a couple women he was associated with that were also kind of and ran around, big socialites that ran around a lot of those circles. And if you know the story of that song, I don't want to go into it, but I've heard different things. But it's a great song, and the way the acoustic guitar and the keyboards gel, that's what Buddha in the Chocolate Box is so good with, that kind of electric piano he moved to on that, and the real kind of tasteful organ, and always that acoustic guitar, just kind of creating that dreamlike atmosphere. Uh, Number 7, I put down Katmandu from Mona Bon Jakon. And Mona Bon Jakon is such, that needs to be remembered. That's such a pared down album, and Katmandu is kind of an example of that. It's another one of these kind of just little ditty songs, but it's got that kind of, sounds like some little kind of jig almost, but really kind of quiet, just acoustic. I don't know what's on it. I think maybe Alan Davies, but some of those songs on Mona Bon Jakon don't have much on them at all, and they're great. I almost wanted to put down Trouble. I Think I See the Light. There's some really good ones on there, but I put down Katmandu. That's a really good one. Also, by the way, a couple songs. Bob Seger had Katmandu, and it seems like that's kind of one of these places that does exist on the planet, but it's kind of like Xanadu, or like Xanadu to Kubla Khan, or even Led Zeppelin, Kashmir. It is a place, but it's sort of also just in some ways someplace far away and dreamy, and almost just more like a fantasy place. Katmandu is a really good acoustic song. 8, I put down 18th Avenue off Catch Bullet 4. There are a bunch of good songs on Catch Bullet 4. It was hard to pick because really some of these album tracks I think they hold up against any of his greatest hits. And that 18th Avenue, that's a good one. And that shows, like I said, Catch Bullet 4 has a rockier edge to it. But the lyrics are so good on that. I think it's a nightmare he had. It's called the Kansas City Nightmare. And there's that interlude in the middle that's just so great. Really, really rocks up pretty well. And number 9, I put down Angelsea, which is such another song off Catch Bullet 4. I guess that would be probably named after the island, right? I'm assuming. But great song. It's got, I don't know what his thinking was, but it always reminds me of some sort of a Celtic goddess or something. But just the that just rocking out with acoustic guitars, that's great, because you can rock out with an acoustic guitar. That song rocks out, and it's a good one. Number 10, I put down another song on Buddha in the Chocolate Box, which is Bad Penny, and that's right. I used to play both of those on my acoustic guitar when I played in coffee houses. This would be like in the late 80s, really. I played in quite a few coffee houses at that time, and that would always go over pretty well. And so I used to do King of Trees and Bad Penny with the acoustic guitar, but it's got that, oh no, don't you so sing. It's a really good song. And it's got that middle part again. Oh, I had it enough. I had enough of those sneaky bars and smart parties. I had enough of those sweet friends and lovers. I had enough, all you lonely rooms and black faces. I had enough. Here's and I want you no more. I want you no more. It's just climatic. That trumpet comes in. That Buddha in the Chocolate Box, it's obviously that album was a big success, but I often think I don't know if it's as fully appreciated, because every album he did always had a different sound, and that Buddha in the Chocolate Box has that kind of mid-70s kind of Fender Rhodes and acoustic guitar sound that just was really magic. It gives it a kind of enchanted feel, and a little bit more electronic. Catch Bullet 4 is rocky too, but you have more piano and organ on that one. But that Buddha in the Chocolate Box is really special, and the opener, Music, is a good song. Of course, Oh Very Young's on there, and Ghost Town, and Home in the Sky, right, and Get Ready's on there, right. Sunscene 79, King of Trees, and Bad Penny, those are really great songs. And I hope you watch my little video I did on the Cat Stevens conversion to Islam, which is really none of my business. I guess I was opinining on something that wasn't any of my business, but I was speaking from my perspective as a fan. But I think those songs are so good, so superior. And the fact that he was really kind of disappeared for 25 years, I think they might have circulated more. He maybe would have done a couple live albums, and maybe the songs would have evolved on stage, into more kind of, some of them could have been kind of epic jams, really almost within the Cat Stevens singer-songwriter mode. But like King of Trees and Bad Penny and Kansas City Nightmare, those are really, really good songs. And all those songs I just mentioned are good. And some of them kind of were rocky. And also you have the little ditties, almost like, I would say, like almost like little Emily Dickinson, The Wind and Katmandu, and he's got several like that. Moonshadow's kind of like that. But again, I found this old book, and that's the 16-year-old me writing the words to Silent Sunlight in my English lit book. And it brought back memories, and for some reason this book is now worth a lot more to me than I'd get. I bet they couldn't even give that away for a dime at a flea market. It's actually got some of the greatest literature in the history of mankind in it. I hope kids still read it. That English teacher was great, by the way. I won't say her name. But, and I was a teenager at the time, and she'd always give me a lot of room. She thought I wrote pretty well, and she'd kind of let me write on all kinds of things. I think I even wrote sometimes on Cat Stevens in that class. And she was a young, recent college grad, and she would let me. But I remember her praising Cat Stevens in that class even, and that's the book we had in there, and I had written the first verse of Silent Sunlight in there. But anyway, don't ever forget to listen to those albums, because every song on those is great. And I didn't mention any songs on Foreigner, or I didn't mention a song off Numbers, or Is It So, or Back to Earth. That's not because they're not good. I didn't favor any one album. Those were my 10 favorite album tracks. If you ask me tomorrow, I might change the list around to some, but those are definitely all great songs. Thanks. God bless.